While Presidents Trump and Xi are battling it out over world domination and von der Leyen is fighting to prove who wears the pants on the world stage, has Rachel Reeves just gone and pulled the rug out from under their feet? I'm Dave, this is Dave Takes It On. I believe the key word for this video is ambivalence, the state of having mixed feelings or contradictory ideas about something or someone. Well, that's followed very closely by hypocrisy, the practice of claiming to have higher standards or more noble beliefs than actually is the case. Well, here they relate to China. Now, we all welcomed China with open arms recently when it came time to buying Christmas decorations, Christmas lights and artificial trees. Almost 100% of those I checked were all made in China. Likewise, the presents for our kids and grandkids, indeed the toy shop shelves themselves, would have been almost totally empty without China. Even when I searched for something not plastic, I looked for a solid wooden kids train set marked Montessori, a great European name. It came from Sync Fun. It also turned out to be from China, Kowloon in this case. But it was really cheap. And it was available for next day delivery. We equally welcome them throughout the whole entire year when it comes to cheap electronic goods like kitchen scales, wall clocks, kitchen knives. Even clothes often come originally from China via an importer. Go on, have a look at some of your labels. And most rechargeable batteries for phones, tablets, e-bikes and drones, probably the phones and drones themselves, are now made in China, with the world's largest battery maker being CATL. So we welcome or accept China when it suits us for buying cheap stuff. Well, how about jobs? Could UK toy manufacturers take over if we all decided to become totally patriotic and buy British? Nowhere near. Our toy industry is a few hundred smaller specialist companies that in no way could compete. Likewise, the clothes industry, in fact, pretty much most industries. So is it all doom and gloom? No, actually far from it. We excel at certain things in specific areas. Once we were the world's steam train builders. Now we actually make very few of them. And very slowly, and even those jobs are at risk. No longer steam, by the way. We do have an announcement about British-built bullet trains for HS2 due in 2027, but most of us have long since given up believing anything that begins with the HS2. However, we are huge in finance and stock markets and insurance. We have Lloyd's of London, AI, computers, and also selling off national institutions to private equity or investment banks. You see, times have changed, but our thinking really hasn't. And nowhere is that more obvious than in our motor industry. Or more accurately, those foreign motor companies that operate here using some of our local labour. Now, we still have the pure talent. The Formula One industry is testament to that. The UK is an absolute world leader. Most of the top teams are based here, and those that weren't actually born and bred here, like Williams, Lotus, McLaren, Aston Martin, they all have huge facilities here, like Mercedes and Red Bull. We're still great at some things. I note here there are no Chinese Formula One teams. We just need to let go of what we once did in the past and focus on where we are now and where we want to go in the future. Well, Trump and von der Leyen are facing directly back into the past. They see their respective countries like they might once have become, but actually never quite got to, and they're trying to get them to where they should have reached. Bring back manufacturing, bring back the jobs, bring back prosperity, bring back world dominance. We want to be in control, bigger, better, more powerful. But you see, well, America never actually quite got there, ever. Certainly they never got anywhere near running an empire spanning half the globe. and their industrial and economic success was very much for the rich at the expense of poverty for the masses, especially in the Deep South. Europe is finding that it is a disparate collection of countries with average wages varying between relative opulence at an average wage of over 2,000 euros per month in Germany, Ireland and Belgium, down to a miserly 600 euros per month or less in Bulgaria, Hungary and Latvia. Guess where all the factories are being set up? And guess who the highest paid people in Europe are? Well, spoiler alert, it's not the factory workers. Well, we in Britain are different. We did make it as an empire, using some very questionable morals, but in no way can we ever go back there. We need to learn from the past, move forward into the future. We love Chinese stuff, the cheap stuff, so let's get the cheap cars, they're EVs too. But let's learn from Toyota and Honda. Tit for tat, let's get them to set up assembly factories here and employ some skilled local labour. In return, China wants to get into the world of finance and sit with the big boys round the same table. We can offer them that. There's no skin off our nose. Rachael Reeves went to China and negotiated a very detailed trade agreement, and I doubt if more than a few hundred ordinary people even know that that trade agreement exists, let alone have read it. Yet almost the entire population publicly slammed her visit to China. Well, that's the media for you. They reported she was swanning off over there when, in their opinion, she should have come hurtling back because they thought she should. Well, she stayed, and the agreement she reached makes interesting reading for the future of Britain and China. There are 69 policy agreements that were reached, plus the opening, and I quote here, both sides believe that as permanent members of the UN Security Council, leading economies and financial powers, there is mutual benefit and strategic importance to maintaining a durable, stable and respectful relationship. Well, item number 1 covers future investments and recognises that the UK is one of the world's leading global financial centres and China's partner of choice for financial services collaboration, something we can do well. Item 2 deepens trade links. Item 24 touches on demographics and pensions and recognises the UK's expertise. 29 deals with green funding, while 37, 38 deal with the G20 and global green targets, including carbon credits. Item 52 opens up standards, regulations and policies in automobiles, green and low carbon development. Finally, 66 deals with the climate and energy. Now, I already know that many viewers will just have their predetermined positions on China, much like Trump and von der Leyen, and they're going to call me out as a China or Xi lover. Many will blindly cite China as being the biggest polluter without bothering to check the latest data. Many will blame China for the collapse of our UK motor industry without checking when that collapse actually began and why it collapsed. But before you do call me out, I would ask you to do what this channel tries to do. Ask yourself, why are you perfectly happy to buy your kids' toys from China, or your drone from China, or your kitchen scales from China, but definitely would never buy an EV from them? Many also likewise will decide, prejudge in fact, that China will simply break any agreement. So, well, if that's your belief, there's absolutely no point in going to any negotiating with anyone if you believe it's already failed before it's even started. Well, the Labour manifesto stated an open relationship with China, no tariffs. I sincerely hope that remains, looks like it is. I sincerely hope that the Rachael Reeves agreement is a step forward from there. Well, back in 1986, Nissan opened the Sunderland plant. 1992, Toyota opened the Derbyshire plant. And Japanese car factories still employ British car workers to this day, some 39 years later, having lasted far longer than British Leyland ever did. Well, just this last week, Labour reversed the wishy-washy Rishi who extended the ban on new all-ICE cars from 2030 as originally agreed by everyone and passed into law out to 2035. Labour just pushed it firmly back to 2030, injecting a huge dose of certainty into the auto industry. 2024 was a year when the legacy auto tested the legislators by continuing to build huge gas guzzlers, petrol and diesel, doing 18 miles a gallon and backtracking on EVs, and then pleading to the government at the last minute that the targets were unfair and they couldn't possibly reach the EV mandated 22%. They went away with their tails between their legs. No, they could reach the targets. It's in the mandate, just by credit. Yes, they could have reached them. They'd just chosen not to as a test of strength and wills. They lost. 2029 now is the last year when the last all-ICE new car will be manufactured and sold for the UK market. CBI produced a report back in October 2024, all of 3 months ago, detailing the golden opportunity that awaited the UK if we grabbed the EV revolution and ran with it. They also pointed out the dark side if we fought against it. Now, a viewer recently asked me if EVs require less servicing, where are all the jobs going to come from to replace those lost in garages and because fewer are needed for manufacturing? In answer, I'm not going to tell you. I refer to the experts, the CBI. This is the Confederation of British Industry. They show, in fact, the truth is the reverse. A really rosy future with EVs. Well, let me quote directly. This EV transition can be a UK success story. We have a strong automotive sector with a strong heritage. But the government will need to work with industry to ensure that our automotive sector remains competitive. With economic growth a key political goal, extra effort will be needed to ensure the industry does grow and more high-value automotive jobs are created. CBI Economics has previously calculated that the UK's net zero economy was worth 74 billion GVA in 2023 and grew 9%, but growth cannot be taken for granted. That's the end of the quote. Now, a link to that report is down below. So don't give me all your I think this or I've calculated that rubbish. If you want to read the report, you might learn a little bit more about what's actually going on in the UK industry today. We need to end exhaust emissions, full stop. There's loads of jobs out there if we do, and we need to do it quite quickly. Far from the rantings of those who should know better, you will still be able to buy brand new ICE cars for another full 5 years, and you'll be able to buy and sell used ones for as long as they keep running. There's no time limit on them. Unlike the scaremongers and the liars out there shouting the loudest, there are no plans in place to stop you driving them, ever. Drive them for an indefinite future, in fact for as long as you can keep them on the road. All these portrayals of instant bans and forcing you into EVs tomorrow and restricting your freedom of choice are just plain lies designed specifically to wind you up. And seeing some of your comments that you leave me, they're amazingly successful. You're fully wound up, triggered as they say these days. What triggers me the most is that the majority of these people proudly end their rants by saying that they would never buy a new EV anyway. They never buy new cars, let alone let someone else take the depreciation hit. They always buy used cars, and then they literally keep those cars for year after year until they finally fall apart. The ones who shout the loudest will never even be affected by a new ICE car ban. And they might not be affected in any meaningful way whatsoever for maybe another 10, 20 or even longer into the future. That's not ambivalence. That's not hypocrisy. There's another word for that entirely. FUBAR. I'm Dave. And thanks very much for watching. If you have enjoyed this, please click the like button. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe. Every subscriber helps, does help guide YouTube to show our videos out to a wider audience. Massive thank you as always to our Patreon members. We are doing more and more on the Patreon channel, so if you would like to support the channel through Patreon, then have a look what's on offer. It's getting more by the day. Great thanks to those who've stuck with us for all this time, and even greater thanks for those of you recently who've still said, thanks Dave, I'm still enjoying your videos. Thanks very much for watching. I'm Dave.